ഞാൻ സനൽ. ഞാനിവിടെ എറണാകുളത്ത് വക്കീലായിട്ട് പ്രാക്ടീസ് ചെയ്യാണ്.
Hi, I'm Nandita. I'm teaching in Newals. I'm a lawyer by profession. We have three children. All of them were born in Birthvillage. Now, how I came to know of Birthvillage is that we have a common friend whose sister gave birth in Birthvillage. So the whole process was very enticing for me, primarily because your husband or your partner could be there through the birth and through the whole process, through the delivery process. So, in fact, we grew closer together because of this birth, is what I can say.
നന്ദിത ഈ ബർത്ത് വില്ലേജിൻ്റെ ഐഡിയ പറയുമ്പോൾ കൃത്യമായൊരു ഐഡിയ ഇല്ല. പക്ഷെ നമ്മളവിടെ പോയി അവിടെ കണ്ടു, അത് മനസ്സിലാക്കിയപ്പോൾ വളരെയധികം ഒരു പുതിയൊരു സാധനമായി തോന്നി. അപ്പോൾ അതുവരെ നമ്മൾ ചെക്കപ്പിന് വേണ്ടി പല ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻസിൽ നമ്മൾ പോയിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അവിടെയൊക്കെ ചെല്ലുമ്പോൾ കിട്ടുന്നൊരു അറ്റ്മോസ്ഫിയർ അല്ല ഇവിടെ. കൂടുതൽ നമ്മൾ ഇൻവോൾവ് ചെയ്യിപ്പിച്ച് നമ്മുടെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കി പേഴ്സണൽ റിലേഷൻഷിപ്പാണ് അവർ നോക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ അത് വളരെ വലിയൊരു സാധനമായിട്ട് തോന്നി. അതാണ് നമ്മൾ ആദ്യമായിട്ട് ഇങ്ങോട്ട് വരാനായിട്ടുള്ള മെയിനായിട്ടുള്ളൊരു കാരണം.
My first two pregnancies were really beautiful. It was a life-changing experience for me. I really enjoyed the entire process, right from the time I conceived till the day I gave birth. It was a beautiful process, primarily because of my care provider. And I was expecting the same thing to happen during my third pregnancy as well, but things didn't turn out so well. So my first scan was at 7 weeks. That is when in the scan report, there was a mention of multiple anechoic areas, but it wasn't such a big deal at that point of time because it was understood that it might go off or it might die down. It was only during my 12th week scan that things started becoming more transparent and more clear. I came to understand that these multiple anechoic areas are spaces of vacuum, which means that blood flow is not going into that area. So the placenta in that area is partially dead. So probably majority portion of the placenta could be dead. And see, the placenta grows as and when the baby also grows. So you get to know the situation only in the future. So the question was whether I wait for that uncertainty or whether I go ahead. So after my 12th week scan, the main thing was, see, I was fine, the baby was fine. That was the biggest takeaway from the scan actually. And that gave me a lot of positive energy, and that is why I decided to move further. And I was asked to wait till my 18th week anomaly scan by my midwife because this is a very unexpected situation. There's not a lot of research in this area. We don't know how this placental abnormality will turn out to be. So I was asked to wait till 18th week and not lose hope, and then and it was told to me that after the 18th week we'll decide what to do then. So this whole process from 12th week to 18th week was it was a huge mental turmoil on me. For me, it was a very, I would say, depressing phase of my life because I needed all the courage and all the willpower to move forward and hope against hope that everything is fine.
ഈ രീതിയിൽ പറയുന്ന അത്ര എളുപ്പമല്ലായിരുന്നു കാര്യങ്ങൾ. ഇതിപ്പോൾ വളരെ സിമ്പിളായി പറഞ്ഞതാണ്. പക്ഷേ വളരെയധികം സ്ട്രെസ്ഫുൾ ആയിരുന്നു ഓൺ ഡെയിലി ബേസിസ്. രാവിലെ തൊട്ട് രാത്രി വരെ ഫുൾ സ്ട്രെസ്സിലാണ് നമ്മൾ ജീവിച്ചത്. എന്താവും ഇവിടെ ഒരു 100 ചോദ്യത്തിന് ഉത്തരം എനിക്ക് ഈ ഫീൽഡിലുള്ള ആളല്ല ഞാൻ, എന്നിട്ട് ഞാൻ ഉണ്ടാക്കി പറയണം. ഇതൊന്നും കുഴപ്പമില്ല, ബർത്ത് വില്ലേജിൽ നിന്ന് എന്താ പറയുന്നത് അത് കേൾക്കാം. ബർത്ത് വില്ലേജിൽ നിന്ന് പറഞ്ഞതൊന്നുമല്ല, ഇപ്പം നോർമലാണ്, നമ്മൾ അങ്ങനെ തന്നെ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നു, അങ്ങനെ തന്നെ പോവാം. അപ്പോൾ ആ വിശ്വാസത്തിൽ ഉറച്ചേക്കുക. ഇവളാണെങ്കിൽ ഡെയിലി ഗൂഗിൾ എടുക്കുക, ഗൂഗിളിൽ ഇന്നത് അടിച്ചു നോക്കിയാൽ ഇന്നതിന് ഉത്തരം കിട്ടും. ഇന്നതാണോ അപകടമാണോ വെച്ചാൽ നിങ്ങൾ നാളെ മരിക്കുന്നു പറഞ്ഞ് കിട്ടും. ആ രീതിയിലാണ് നമ്മൾ പേടിച്ച് ജീവിച്ചത്. എനിക്ക് പേടിയുണ്ടെങ്കിലും അത് പുറത്ത് കാണിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. പുറത്ത് കാണിക്കാതെ കൃത്യമായി ഇവളെ ആശ്വസിപ്പിച്ച് ബർത്ത് വില്ലേജ് പറയുന്ന രീതിയിൽ പോവാം. പക്ഷേ ഈ സ്കാനിങ് സെൻറ്റർ ചെല്ലുമ്പോഴാണ് പേടിപ്പിക്കുന്നത്. അതാണ് നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ മാതിരി ഈ ഇപ്പോൾ ഉള്ള സിസ്റ്റത്തിൽ നമ്മൾ ചെല്ലുമ്പോൾ അവർ തരുന്നൊരു ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് ഉണ്ട്. അവർ നമ്മളെ മാക്സിമം പേടിപ്പിക്കും. ആ ടെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യണം, ഈ ടെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യണം. ബർത്ത് വില്ലേജിന് വിളിക്കുമ്പോൾ അതൊന്നും വേണ്ട, തൽക്കാലം ഇങ്ങനെ പോട്ടെ എന്ന് പറയും. അപ്പോൾ ഈ ഒരു ചക്രത്തിൽ കിടന്ന് ഓടണമായിരുന്നു നമ്മുടെ ആ അന്നത്തെ അവസ്ഥ.
So this period of 4 to 8 weeks, I was talking to the baby every day, day in and day out. I was, and I really personally I believe that we had a connection that was already taking form, me and the baby. So after the 12th week scan, around the 14th week of my pregnancy, I had a lot of pressure from my family, especially because we have care providers within the immediate family circle. So, apart from the mental turmoil that I was already in, this was an added burden on me. And it took a huge toll on my mental status at that point of time.
ആ സമയത്ത് ഈ പറയുന്ന ആൾക്കാരൊക്കെ എന്നെയാണ് കോണ്ടാക്ട് ചെയ്യുക. അപ്പോൾ സ്വാഭാവികമായി ആ ഒരു ബേർഡനും കൂടി എൻ്റെ തലയിലേക്ക് വന്നു തുടങ്ങി. അപ്പോൾ ഈ പ്രഷർ ഹാൻഡിൽ ചെയ്യണം, നന്ദിത ഹാൻഡിൽ ചെയ്യണം, എൻ്റെ പേഴ്സണൽ ടെൻഷൻസ് ഉണ്ടാവും. അതുകൂടാതെ ഈ പറഞ്ഞ റിലേറ്റീവ്സൊക്കെ വിളിക്കുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ വേണം ഹാൻഡിൽ ചെയ്യാൻ. അത് വളരെയധികം പ്രഷർ എന്നിൽ ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. പിന്നെ ഇവൾക്ക് കൊടുക്കേണ്ട സപ്പോർട്ടൊക്കെ ഭയങ്കര ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാവുന്നുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. നമ്മൾ തമ്മിലുള്ള കൺഫ്യൂഷൻസ്, നമ്മൾ ഡെയിലി ഇത് വേണോ വേണ്ടിയോ എന്നൊക്കെയുള്ള തിരിച്ചും മറിച്ചുള്ള ചർച്ച. സ്വാഭാവികമായി അതിങ്ങനെ പോയി അവസാനം ഞാൻ അവരോട് റഫായിട്ട് ബിഹേവ് ചെയ്യേണ്ട വരെ ഒരു സിറ്റുവേഷൻ വളരെയധികം വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. അതൊക്കെ സ്വാഭാവികമായിട്ട് ഇതിൻ്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് വരുന്നതാണ്. ഐ ക്യാൻ അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ്. പക്ഷെ അന്ന് ഇവൾക്ക് വളരെയധികം ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടായിരുന്നു. അതൊക്കെ എന്താണ് അവരിങ്ങനെ എന്നൊക്കെ വിചാരിച്ച ഒരു അവസ്ഥയൊക്കെ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ഉണ്ടായിട്ടുണ്ട്.
So the 18th week anomaly scan was basically the turning point of our pregnancy. I pushed the 18th week scan to the 19th week because I was feeling very insecure and I didn't know what to do and the decision that I was to take. So we went to a institution instead of a scanning center to get the scan done. So I was called into a room where there were 3 senior care providers and there were also around 10 to 12 students and around 5 to 6 nurses. And I was laid on the table for about 45 minutes and they were poking and probing me at all places. While I was laying there for 45 minutes, all that was going in my mind is you have to stay positive through this. This is, you're becoming a research material for other people. You're doing benefit to them, irrespective of the fact that they didn't take any consent from me or they didn't take any or give any importance to my privacy. From the words that they were saying, I could understand that this is not going to be a normal pregnancy. So much I could understand, and this is a very risky situation is what I gathered. So after the long wait, we both entered the care provider's room. He sat us down and he basically told us there were 2 options. The situation was where, the whole placental abnormality could be risky for me as well, because there was an issue called the partial mole. And this partial mole means the placenta could turn out to be malignant or cancerous. And the problem was, while you are carrying, you cannot do a biopsy. You can do the biopsy only after delivery, after the placenta comes out of the body. So basically, to put it very shortly, you either take the risk and move forward or you terminate. And his personal advice was that I terminate. And if we were to move forward or if we were in a state of doubt, he suggested that we could do karyotyping. Now, karyotyping is a process which is in addition to the anomaly scan to figure out if there are any further genetic abnormalities that might be indicative or that might push you towards termination. So we decided, since we were so confused, personally both of us were very confused at that point of time because of all the pressure, external pressure, at that point of time we couldn't take our own decisions. So at that moment we decided we'll go for karyotyping. And this was at say 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the evening. To do karyotyping, we had to do a COVID test and get admitted. So while the process for the COVID test was taking place and we are filling out all forms for the karyotyping, another care provider came and told us that don't get scared by seeing the needle. So that is when I'm realizing, or that is when it's striking me that karyotyping is not a simple process. From the background that I come from with respect to pregnancies, I have opted for no medical intervention at any point of time, and this seemed extremely scary because the care provider told us that it is a huge needle that will go into your stomach and amniotic fluid will be pulled out from the stomach, and that will go for testing. So I was in a daze at that point of time, and that is when he stepped in and took the right decision. What he said was, see, let's just forget this for now. We can take the night and we can decide, and then if needed, we can come back tomorrow. And I think that changed the whole entire process, and that was basically the turning point for me. That particular night, I have never felt so much baby movements in that entire period till that day, because somehow I think the baby was listening. I don't know what it is. The baby was doing somersaults and kicking and turning, and I could feel it the entire night. I was sitting up the entire night just feeling the baby.
ഈ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷണൽ പ്രഷർ കൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ എന്താണ് കുട്ടിക്ക് വേണ്ടതെന്നോ നമുക്ക് വേണ്ടതെന്നോ തീരുമാനിക്കാൻ പറ്റാണ്ട് വി ഡിസൈഡ് എങ്ങനെയെങ്കിലും അതൊന്ന് തീർന്നു കിട്ടി നമ്മൾ ഈ ഒരു ഇഷ്യൂ നിന്ന് മാറി നോർമലായിട്ട് പഴയ ഞങ്ങളാവാനായിട്ട് ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്ന ഒരു മൊമെൻ്റ് ഉണ്ട്. അത് വല്ലാത്തൊരവസ്ഥയാണ്.
So the thing is, when we went there, this was not by our choice. This is because we wanted to get out of the sticky situation, and this is not because we put our mind to it and we put our heart to it. Our heart was somewhere else, and that is why we went to this institution. And when we went there, again it was told to me. I didn't do my research this time because I didn't have the heart to read how termination process is. So I didn't do my research. So I thought it was a very normal procedure. You wouldn't have to go through anything. But this particular care provider, she changed our lives. We went there, and she told us the entire procedure of how it would take place. So the process was not as I expected it to be. It was just like giving birth. They would induce you and you would have to give birth. That is the whole process of termination. And so this reminded me of Priyanka. Actually, the day before we decided to terminate, after the scan from the other institution, she talked to me for nearly 1.5 hours over the phone. She kept calling me, but I was not picking up. And then finally, she spoke to him, and he told her the entire situation that we were in, and she insisted that she speak to me. And when I spoke to her, she's like, think for yourself, you make the choice, don't listen to others. What do you feel, and what does the baby feel? Listen to baby movements, feel the baby is yours, and you're the primary care provider for the baby. You can act on behalf of the baby, only you're going to be there for the baby. So think of all these things and take a decision. Don't jump the gun. That is exactly what she told me. And right from the beginning, she has been telling me that, see, the baby is fine, you're fine. Please believe in that. Take that as your positive affirmation and move forward. Keep affirming yourself that this is how it is going to be throughout the pregnancy. Why do you have to think of negative things about uncertain things? You have certain facts in hand, use that and move forward with the facts that you have. And this is the exact same thing that the care provider from the other institution also told us. She just put it in black and white, and she said that, see, this is the termination process. Are you ready for it? Only if you're mentally prepared to endure the process, please go forward. The scan report indicates that you are fine, the baby is fine. Don't act out on uncertainty.
പക്ഷെ നമ്മൾ ബർത്ത് വില്ലേജിൻ്റെ ആ പറഞ്ഞ രീതിക്കനുസരിച്ച് ആളുടെ അവസ്ഥയും കുഞ്ഞിൻ്റെ അവസ്ഥയും വെച്ചിട്ട് തന്നെ നമ്മൾ കണ്ടിന്യൂ ചെയ്യാൻ തീരുമാനിച്ചു. ആ തീരുമാനം എടുത്ത ആ മൊമെൻറ്റ് തൊട്ട് നമ്മൾ വളരെയധികം റിലാക്സ്ഡ് ആയിരുന്നു. അത് വലിയൊരു കനം മനസ്സിൽ നിന്ന് മാറ്റിയ മാതിരി എല്ലാ കാര്യങ്ങളും നമ്മളങ്ങ് മാറ്റി. ബാക്കിയുള്ള ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ പ്രഷറൊക്കെ നമ്മുടെ മനസ്സിൽ നിന്ന് പോയി, ഫാമിലി പ്രഷർ പോയി. പക്ഷേ വളരെയധികം കൃത്യമായ സ്റ്റാൻഡ് ഞാൻ എടുത്തു. കാരണം ഇനി വേറെ ആരും പറയുന്നത് കേൾക്കില്ല. എന്ത് സംഭവിച്ചാലും അത് നമ്മുടെ മാത്രം ഒരു ഉത്തരവാദിത്വം, നമ്മുടെ മാത്രം ഒരവസ്ഥയായിരിക്കും. അതിൽ സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യേണ്ടവർക്ക് സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യാം, അല്ലാതെ ഉപദ്രവിക്കാനായിട്ട് ആരും ഇടപെടണ്ട എന്നുള്ള കൃത്യമായ സ്റ്റേറ്റ്മെൻറ്റ് എല്ലാവർക്കും നമ്മൾ കൊടുത്തപ്പോൾ വളരെയധികം ക്ലീനായി. പിന്നെ നമ്മുടെ പുറകിൽ എല്ലാവരും സപ്പോർട്ടിന് ആ രീതിയിലാണ് പിന്നെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ നീങ്ങിയത്.
What I did was, I basically drew a circle around the four of us. That is the first two, and me and him. And I drew a personal space within us, wherein nobody from the outside, no external energy that was aggressive or even slightly disturbing for me was allowed into this sphere. And I would just zone out if people were to ask me difficult questions, uncomfortable questions. And in this personal space, we started following this ritual where we used to say I love you to everyone before we go to sleep. And that was all it was a different space for me, and it bonded the four of us in a much effective manner than what we were before. My pregnancy was throughout the lockdown period, and what we did is we traveled every weekend all throughout Kerala. Every weekend for 2 days, we would switch off, we would zone out, we'll go to a secluded place, we would relax, and that was extremely beneficial for all four of us in different ways, in ways that we don't realize it probably even now. It was, for me, it was a very blissful experience. Another thing that Priyanka made me do through this period that has benefited me in ways that I cannot explain is she made me download a birthing app called Gentle Birth app. And this app basically provides you with positive affirmations, meditations, it's different sessions. Each day they give you sessions, 2 or 3 sessions, and you're supposed to do it. They have a calendar within the app itself to track what all sessions you have done. And another important factor that I've realized throughout the pregnancy is something that Priyanka told me. You are what you manifest, or whatever you think, whatever you feel, that is how things will turn out to be. Another thing that I'd like to mention here is that we never knew if the baby would be born premature or not. And this time around, my labor lasted for only 4 hours, and my active labor actually was only for an hour and a half. And within that time frame, the baby was born. And usually, from what Priyanka says is the third time round is a little tricky. You never know if your labor will go long or it will be short. For me, it was very short. It was very easy and very short, probably because my baby was only 2 kilos. So it was very easy for me. But I remember this one particular instance where I felt like I could do it no longer. The pushing part of it, where I felt like I could do it no longer. And I looked at my partner, and what he said made my day. He was like, "This is the last time you're going to do it, I promise." So I was very reluctant to look at the baby. This was probably all the fear and all the the feeling of negativity came rushing in, and I couldn't look at the baby for about 5 minutes after I gave birth. The baby came out from behind, so it went. Priyanka held the baby from behind, and I couldn't look at her. I just asked if it's a girl or a boy, and I heard that it's a girl. I was very relieved, and I started screaming at the top of my lungs, saying that we did it, we did it, we did it. And I remember crying and breaking down literally. And after about a couple of minutes, my placenta also came out, and it was very ghastly. It was very difficult to look at because one side of the placenta was completely dead. It was white in color, and the other side was working. So the uterus wall where the placenta was attached to, that part of it was completely dead. And I would say it's a miracle. I would like to think of it like that. But I think my partner would disagree. He would say that it is because of our positive thinking and all that. Maybe that is true. And I would like to agree in some way. And it doesn't end there, because we had to check whether the placenta was malignant or not, as in whether it was cancerous. So it was sent for biopsy immediately, and it took about a couple of days for the result to come. Again, an anxious waiting period. And when the result came, we were both basically jumping up and down with joy, saying that no, it is not malignant or cancerous. So, the entire pregnancy period, this third time round, was very difficult, very taxing, but at the same time, all of us as a family grew, and we realized each of our potentials. And the main thing was the communication lines were open. See, especially in India, it's very difficult for women to take their own decisions, whatever it be, whether it be with respect to your education or your marriage or your pregnancy. It's very difficult for women to take their own decisions. But this is what I have learned throughout this pregnancy and also my previous pregnancies, that I should listen to myself and what I want. And only then you will be able to move forward in the future guilt free. Because that is a risk or that is a decision that you took. It's your primary responsibility to act towards it.
എനിക്ക് കൂടുതൽ പറയാനുള്ളത് നമുക്ക് സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന ആളുകളോടാണ്. അവർക്ക് സ്വാഭാവികമായിട്ട് പല ടെൻഷൻസ് ഉണ്ടാവും. പക്ഷേ ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ കാര്യം, നമുക്ക് ഉള്ളിൽ പല വികാരങ്ങളുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ പുറത്ത് ഇവരെ മാക്സിമം സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ വളരെയധികം വലിയ വ്യത്യാസങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പറ്റും. ഇപ്പം നമ്മുടെ കേസിൽ തന്നെ പല പ്രശ്നം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നെങ്കിലും ഞാനതൊന്നും അവളിലേക്ക് എത്തിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. അതുവഴി നമുക്ക് വളരെ അധികം വലിയ റിസൾട്ട് കിട്ടും. അപ്പോൾ തൽക്കാലത്തേക്കെങ്കിലും, അതൊക്കെ കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഇത് കഴിയുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് എന്ത് വേണം ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യാം. ആ ഒരു പ്രഷർ സമയത്ത് അത് നമ്മുടെ പ്രഷർ, പുറത്തുള്ള പ്രഷറൊക്കെ ഇവിടേക്ക് വരാതിരിക്കാനായിട്ട് നമ്മളൊന്ന് പുറത്തൊന്ന് നിൽക്കുക. വളരെ നല്ല റിസൾട്ട് ഉണ്ടാവും.